So we're talking about something that seems fantastical, but then isn't creation fantastical? Take a look at my eyeglasses. Even they are fantastical. They help me with my motion sickness and lack of balance. But I guess they're decorative. But this is fantastical. A superconductive canopy of compressed hydrogen in near metallic form was encased above and below in crystalline water. Hydrogen, H2O, and oxygen form water. Freeze it, superconductive, in 180 degree minus 180 degree temperatures and becomes superconductive, compressed, metallic, near metallic form, and it crystallizes so that the hydrogen is in the middle and the water, the oxygen above and below, I guess. I don't know exactly. The stars were shining at a distance, therefore, and a startling characteristic of the pre-flood world. In Genesis 1:14-18, the stellar heavens are described. The stars are in color, and the biblical record states that God set the stars in the firmament. The ancients described the firmament as a vault above the earth, and the stars were placed in this vault as it appeared. This is not what the biblical record says to us. The biblical record states very clearly that God set the stars in the firmament, much as a jeweler would enhance a diamond by placing it on a background of black velvet. The word set is taken from the Hebrew word Nathan. It means to add and yield. Take a drink here. In other words, the stars are not physically placed in the firmament, because they are obviously great distances away. But as light from the stars penetrates the firmament, the light appears into the earth. Anyway, a little interruption there. So the stars were shining at a distance, a startling characteristic of the pre-flood world. In Genesis 1:14-18, the stellar heavens are described. The stars are in color, and the biblical record states that God set the stars in the firmament. The ancients described the firmament as a vault above the earth, and the stars were placed in this vault. This is not what the biblical record says to us. The biblical record states very clearly that God set the stars in the firmament, much as a jeweler would enhance a diamond by placing it on a background of black velvet. The word set is taken from the Hebrew word Nathan. It means to add and yield. In other words, the stars are not physically placed in the firmament because they are great distances away. But as light from the stars penetrates the firmament, there is a very strong magnetic field in the middle. It is superconductive without any resistance to the flow of electrons. On each side is an electromagnetic field charged to a lesser degree in the crystalline water formation. What is then presented in a pressurized form on each side is a photomultiplier. Each photon of light which strikes the configuration is multiplied by 10 because of the interaction in the atoms. On the Earth side of the canopy, the stars were seen with 10 times the photons in the light brought to the outer surface of the canopy. Before the flood, the stars were seen by man as being about 3 times brighter than they are seen today. In other words, in the firmament, God set the stars, or added and yielded their dimensions in full color in this manner. It's kind of not literal but figurative, but understandably, the literal understanding is distance away, but then as the light reached the earth, the canopy of the earth, then it was enhanced. So NASA has found that when a red filter is used in space, the stars appear in beautiful color. This is exciting because God put the stellar bodies in space for signs, for days, and for months, and for years. We understand that by observing the rotation of the earth in relation to the movement of the sun and the moon and other heavenly bodies, we can tell times. Must have been much more precise in those days. But now we can perceive that with the enhancement of the light, those before the flood could, by the configuration of the stars, tell time at any moment. They would not need a Rolex watch. They would have something far better. Before the flood, Earth's inhabitants never saw total darkness. researchers indicated that the temperature would have been about 78 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. Imagine superior man with a perfect environment, perfect food with complete nutrients, no harmful radiation from space, and disease microbes held in check. The pre-flood world was, in our understanding today, paradise. The controlled nuclear reaction inside the Earth is another factor to consider. Uniformitarians, I think that this is pretty much the way the Earth has always been. The way we have all kinds of radiation outside, and the Earth's temperatures are extreme from one extreme to the next and back. So Dr. Carl Baugh, in his book, in the orchestral creation model that's described in part in Job 38, God said there were foundations to the Earth, and that there were elements in perfect balance. Inside the Earth there existed the radioisotopes in perfect balance with moderators such as iridium, strontium, rubidium, radioisotopic lead. Now that's radioisotopic lead. There's also original lead. Keep that in mind. And uranium in perfect balance with manganese, water, sulfur, magnesium, and other elemental moderators. Under those circumstances, inside the Earth, there would have existed a perfectly controlled nuclear reaction. Not only would there have been a nuclear reactor, but with the elements placed in perfect balance, there would have been what physicists now call a breeder reactor. You would have ended up with as many elements as you started with, as long as there was a constant energy input into the system. The constant energy input was generated throughout the celestial heavens and received into the crystalline firmament canopy, ice canopy above the Earth, water, and the primary electromagnetic field of the canopy transferred this energy supply, would have been continuously restructured and replaced. Paradise. Under those circumstances, with the radioisotopes inside the Earth in a long-term decay rate, there would have existed a perfectly balanced nuclear reactor inside the Earth. Hence the wonderful temperatures and so on. Well, a little better on the dizziness, but let's keep on going. You would need such a perfectly balanced reactor in the orchestral model. It is primarily the shortwave energy which heats up the atmosphere around us every day. However, the shortwave energy would have been filtered out by the firmament canopy before the flood. The heating of the environment did not come from above. Yes, see? Instead, there would have been a gently thermal blanket, gentle thermal blanket within the Earth, probably surrounded by a layer of asphalt inside the Earth called the swaddling band, like baby clothing strips in Job 38:9. Let's take a look at Job 38:9. All these little things in Scripture. Job 38:9. When I made a cloud its garment, and thick darkness its swaddling band. God is talking about Job. You're complaining. Who is that? That darkness by words without knowledge. God is chastising Job and his advisors. Tell me, if you have understanding, Job, who set its measurements, the foundations of the earth? Since you know, look at this up here in verse 4, foundations of the earth. Tell me if you have understanding, who set its measurements, since you know, or who stretched the line on it, or what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? This is figurative language, poetic. When the morning stars sang together, literally though, they did. They created music, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. We'll learn about that. And who enclosed the sea with doors? When bursting forth, it went out from the womb. When I made a garment, a cloud its garment, and the thickness its swaddling band. There's that verse we referred to. This would moderate and sustain the temperature which would then be radiated to the Earth's surface. Possibly would be returned to the surface of the Earth through water fountains and recycling reservoirs. This energy would be returned to the Earth so that at night the energy transferred into the Earth would cause the environment to be slightly cooler. During the daytime, because of this perfectly balanced thermonuclear reaction inside the Earth, it would have heated up slightly to approximately 78 degrees Fahrenheit. With Job as a context, and with all the natural elements in perfect balance, let us emphasize the element that is the most common worldwide. This element is silicon, or sand. Inside the Earth, there would have existed a perfectly balanced nuclear reactor designed with radioisotopes and moderators. Getting a little dizzy, so I'm going to... Above that rested a solid crust of granite around the Earth, and then above that there would have existed a layer of sand or silicon. Above this silicon layer would have been the vegetation. This would also give a slightly warmer ambient temperature context for the root systems. Amazingly, botanists have found that when plants are grown hydroponically, they grow to be superior plants. When a plant is grown under a pink light, it is superior. When the roots are slightly warmed, the plant grows and produces in a superior fashion. When the amount of carbon dioxide is slightly increased, the plant grows better still. A Japanese physicist, Dr. Kai Mori, took only 2 of these gradient elements. He filtered the ultraviolet rays and increased the carbon dioxide and exposed plant life to these conditions. In 2 years, under his supervision, a tomato plant grew to be 16 feet tall with 903 tomatoes on it. The tomato plant has continued to grow to this day. Our last report shows that it is over 5 years old, the tomato plant, over 20 feet tall, and has produced over 4,000 tomatoes. All Dr. Mori did was filter out the ultraviolet rays and allow the plant to take in more carbon dioxide. The United States Department of Agriculture simply added some carbon dioxide to cotton plants, and they found that it resulted in a 30 to 50% increase in growth rate. Before the flood, however, the following conditions existed that would have helped plants to grow better. There existed increased atmospheric pressure. Carbon dioxide was increased to an efficient degree. Hydroponic growing conditions existed, in which plant roots penetrated into the water table in the sand. Thus, the nutrients were better supplied. There was a variation of flow within the water table. There was a slightly warmer temperature gradient in the root systems and the water table. There was efficient use of pink light. There was an elimination of ultraviolet radiation. Forests reverberated with music. Another point which we read about in Job 38. Dr. Carl Baugh, in his book. The description of the restored earth found in Isaiah 35 shows that the forest will again sing. Around an individual before the flood in this canopy context, the radio waves from the stars were enhanced by this canopy in the morning hours. The crystalline structure of the sand would pick up and amplify these radio waves. Finally, there are qualities in the cellular structures of plants which would cause the reeds to vibrate, so the forest began to sing. Anyone who knew his creator could not help but respond. Only now have we been able to put together this orchestral creation model, balancing out all of these elements in an articulated form. The biblical records explain reality far better than the evolutionary concept does. Dr. Carly Ball, I think it's Ball. Yeah. Isaiah 35 corresponds to other chapters in Isaiah which tell of a coming millennium when the lion and the lamb will lie down together. This is kind of supernatural, right? Because we look at this now with predator and prey as norm. But no, this is abnormal. Supernatural before that, and now this change during this period of time when Adam and Eve fell, and we have a restoration